You can see it's a beautiful day here in Texas. The dogs are outside doing their business, and we're going to the garage to get to work on the RTR Spec 2. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's me, Jordan. I am back here in the garage, and we are getting to work on putting in the crankshaft in the RTR Spec 2. So what do you say we just go ahead and hop into it, because I feel that this might be a long video. So we got our parts in today from Tasca Parts out of Rhode Island. We got all our Ford performance parts, or actually just Ford parts. These are our main bearings. We got in here our piston rod bearings, rear main seals, our gaskets. I also have a new upper strut mount for Gabby's car, because if you remember, we kind of broke that. We're going to pull everything out of the box real quick, get it all lined up and ready to go, and then we're going to start dropping in the crankshaft. All this stuff here should be our main bearings. Look at that packaging. Yep. Oh yeah, there's the rear. So there's all our bearings, so we can start setting these in the engine. So we got our Ford Performance crankshaft here. This is a new beefy Ford dealy bob, because dealy bob is an actual word. Look it up. We're going to be putting this here into our engine. So we got all of our bearings in here for the main bearings. We're going to go through and put some assembly lube on here. Like with the last one, I have the Lucas oil assembly lube, so we're going to go through, lube some of that up, as well as the top portion of the bearing, or the bottom, depending on how you're looking at the engine. And then we're going to go ahead and lube up the crankshaft as well before dropping it in there. Each one of these has a number on it. So if you can see on here, this one has a number 1 on it. All of them have a number on it from 1 to 5. So you got to make sure everything goes back in order how you took it out. Also the same with the bolts. I'm putting the bolts back in the same order that they were taken out. That way there's no errors whatsoever in putting this thing back together. There's a certain order that you have to put the bolts in as well, so we're going to make sure that we get that correct and torqued down to spec. I have the chart for that. As we do it, I'll go ahead and I'll pop it up on the screen, but let's get everything lubed up and drop this crankshaft in. Dang, this thing is heavy. She's in place.
Smells weird.
Yeah? Your butt smells weird.
You smell weird.
I know I do. Stuff has to go in very, very straight. Otherwise, it's gonna
Grind?
It's not gonna, well, yeah, it'll grind, but it'll also not hold it in place right. So this was not easy getting out, and it's not easy getting back in.
Why don't you just line up the holes?
Huh?
Why don't you line up the holes?
That's what I'm doing, but like there's no wiggle room whatsoever, so it's got to go in straight and drop down completely straight. Yep, perfect. Okay, we need to start putting these bolts in, and we're going to start from the center, working our way out. However, we are going to only be dropping them in right now, and then we'll go through and we'll start tightening everything up. I've seen on other channels where people have said with the ARP bolts you need to soak them in a 30-way oil. I don't know if you need to do that for stock. I will look into it though. Hopefully that helps. I am staying with the stock bolts. I did originally look at getting ARP for both this and then for my headers. However, they were out of stock. So I went ahead and I decided, well, since pretty much everything that's going back in here is stock, this really shouldn't matter. Keeping my fingers crossed that I'm not wrong. This studded end right here needs to go here number 4 because the oil pickup attaches to this. Not gonna lie, I put those in the entirely wrong order. It was supposed to start with the outside bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then work your way in. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All I've done right now is butted them up, or nestled them, if you want to say it politely and all cute, against the bracket that holds them in place. I didn't put any amount of force on them whatsoever, so hopefully that won't make a difference. I just bought a new 13, and you think I can find it to save my life? Absolutely not. It's already missing. We're going to go ahead and torque everything down now, and there's a specific pattern. I'll go ahead and I'll put the chart up on here. But it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, starting with the outside and then move into the inside. So we're going to go through, and it says from 4 to torque them down to 20 newton meters all the way around, which is about 14.75 foot-pounds of torque. So now we need to go through and torque down all the insides, 11 through 20, to 65 newton meters, which factors out to be, what is that, 47.9 foot-pounds. Alright, there we go. Now we need to make sure everything still spins. Alright, there we go. Everything's spinning. It's good. That's very good. So now that we got everything torqued down to spec, one thing that the instructions say is torque it down and then turn each one of these bolts in sequence an additional 90 degrees. Now I had no idea what that was for, so I did what I did whenever I don't know what I'm doing. I called Drew. So Drew looked it up and he says the reason for that is torquing them down gets everything butted up to the metal and where it needs to be, holding it in place. But the extra 90 degrees, that helps with any expansion that happens during the engine cycle or when it starts to heat up. Now that we've torqued everything down, turned it at its 90 degrees, let's go ahead and give her a spin, make sure everything's still good. Oh yeah, like butter. There's also an order that you need to torque these down to as well. I'm just going to go ahead and butt them up against the block right now in no particular order, and then we're going to go through afterwards and torque them down. Everything here on the side first go around needs to be torqued down to 10 newton meters, which is 7.37 foot-pounds of torque. And the degrees have been set, so let's go ahead and give her another crank, make sure everything's still turning freely, which it is. Awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and install the fuel pump back on the front. These spots here, these flat spots, need to line up with the flat spots here on the crank, so we're going to go ahead and make sure that we line those up. As we start torquing some of these down, it depends on the manual you look at. They may label these A, B, C, and D, or 1, 2, 3, and 4. But what we're going to do is go around and start torquing them down now. So this one here is going to be 89 pound-inches or 10 newton meters, which translates into 7.37 foot-pounds. Our stud here is going to be torqued down to 25 newton meters or 18 foot-pounds. This next bolt we have over here is going to be torqued down to 89 inch-pounds or 10 newton meters, which factors out again to 7.37 foot-pounds. And then our last stud over here is going to be 177 pound-inches or 20 newton meters, which is 14.75. Our first 8mm bolt here, we're going to go ahead and torque this down to 7.37. Stud here is a 13mm, and that's going to 18 foot-pounds. Next bolt here is another 8, and that's going to be going down to 7.73. Then our last stud here is going to be a 10mm, and that's going to 14.75. Okay, so our 8mm here needs to have 45 degrees of angle added to it. I'm going to use my special mathematics tool here. That looks about right. For our next stud with our 13, we're going to be adding 75 degrees. Back here to our next bolt, we're going to be adding another 45. And finally for our last stud here with the 9, we're going to be adding in 65. And now for our back plate, we've already removed our rear main seal here. All I did is went from the inside edge here, went into this little groove, tapped it out with a flathead screwdriver, and the thing popped right out. We got our new rear main seal here. I picked this one up from, I believe it was Late Model Restoration sent us this. So we're going to drop this new one in. What we're going to do here is we're going to take the outer edge and just put a little bit of oil on here. Just kind of coat the outside edge here. So this here this end here, little flappy bit, is going to go out. You want to make sure that the side that's got the spring in there faces inward. So we're just going to go ahead and drop her in here. So we have the seal in here. I put a coat of oil around it, and then what I did is I actually just put it face down onto the edge of this plastic table, and I push it down until it lined it up and locked out in place. So if you look, it's even all the way around here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and put some of this gasket sealant on here. This is Permatex, the right stuff. It's a gasket maker. So I got this at, I believe it was AutoZone when we were working on the F-150. Now I just got to remember how to make this work. Ooh, I'm horrible at putting this on.
You're missing so many spots.
It doesn't matter because it's all going to compress anyway.
It's gonna say.
The one thing I've been having trouble finding online is the torque specs for this rear plate and these bolts. From what I've been able to scrounge up, it's about 79 to 101 inch-pounds, which would put us right in that range like we were with some of our other bolts earlier up front. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down to about 7.5 foot-pounds. What I've been seeing online, the bolt pattern for this is a 5-3-2-1-6-4. So we'll have 5 right here, 3 over here, 2, 1, 6, 4. So that's what we're going to follow. Like I said, we're going to go ahead and take our 10mm socket here, and we're going to go ahead and start torquing these down. Okay, I decided to button it up and save you guys from watching me fast forward through another torque session. We went ahead and we got the crankshaft in. We also got the oil pump on as well as the back plate. I did, however, forget one little thing. I forgot to put in the thrust washer. So we'll have to take care of that, but it's not that big of a deal. It's not like it was already in the car and running. In the next episode, hopefully our pistons will be here and we'll be installing those. And then we're going to be moving on to getting the heads on. And we may or may not have a special delivery coming of comp cams, but that will be in the next episode. Until then, peace.